Hi everyone! In this video, I would like to talk about traveling solo, specifically traveling solo over the age of 60 as a female. Sometimes traveling solo can feel pretty daunting, especially if you're a woman and you don't have a lot of experience in traveling alone outside of your own country. So in this video, I would like to just go over some tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my career in the corporate sector when I used to travel a lot, and I pretty much always traveled alone. I went as far as the Philippines, back and forth quite a few times. These were very long trips, multiple airport stops. They were sometimes pretty difficult and complicated. So in this video, I would like to touch on topics such as the preparation and planning for going on a trip outside of your own country, things like safety and security of yourself while you're traveling, finances, how much is it going to cost, what are the types of things you'll have to pay for and consider in order to build out your budget, and also maybe some packing tips, because what to bring with you is always a big question mark. So let's move forward and discuss all of these topics throughout the video. Hi, my name is Reina and this is Small Retired Life. On my channel, we talk about all things that have to do with retirement, living over the age of 50, 60, 70, 80, anything and everything to do with living a small but a meaningful retired life. So welcome here. The first part I want to discuss is planning and preparation for your trip. This can include things like ensuring that your documentation is up to date and that you have all of the necessary travel permits that are required. One thing to keep in mind is that many countries now want you to have something called an ETA. Quite often you get these ETAs through that country's online application process. In the case of Australia, that included an app that I had to download, and I had to go through a series of steps to gain my ETA through that app. Essentially what an ETA is like a little mini visa that is often approved almost immediately. It helps that particular country that you are visiting keep track of who is going in and out. The ETA has a number, it is often attached to your passport, and so countries can kind of control who gets in and out through these ETAs. Also, my cynical self will say that it is a way to raise revenue for countries. You have to pay a fee in order to receive your ETA. In my case, I paid $25 in Australian dollars. And so it wasn't really a huge amount, but I'm going to guess that a lot of these ETA fees are going to increase over the years because it's an easy way for a country to make a lot of money. Think about all of the tourists that are flowing into specific countries, and if each one of them pays a fee, that's quite a bit of revenue. So that is the documentation portion. I also examine what I have for luggage and what I will need. I will be gone for 2 months, but I only want to take one suitcase with me, and that will be a checked-in piece of luggage. I'm also only taking a small bag for carry-on, something big enough to fit my laptop and maybe my camera and some of my really expensive camera gear. I want it to be just big enough to kind of stow underneath the seat in front of me. I don't want to be doing any overhead bin type stuff because I am traveling economy. So speaking of suitcases, I'm thrilled to be able to partner up with Level 8 Luggage, who is a sponsor of this video. Level 8 is an innovative luggage brand that's born in New York and offers a product that is both beautiful and practical. Level 8 Luggage was kind enough to send me their 28-inch Voyager case to try out on my trip to Australia. I can give it a try and then give you a report once I get back. The case that they sent me is in the Celadon color, which is their limited edition color. It is absolutely stunning and will definitely stand out in a sea of black suitcases that tend to come out on most carousels at the airport. The case is made of very sturdy 100% PC material that is both flexible but also protective of the contents inside the case. The case comes with some excellent features, including the extra wide handle. This is so great for when I'm wheeling around the airport. I can lean on the handle, makes it very sturdy, and makes it easy to move the case around. The handle adjusts to 4 different heights. So you have it retracted. This is the first level. This is the second level, third level, and the fourth level when it's fully retracted. The wheels really move around smoothly. It is so easy to move this case around and maneuver it in all directions. What a difference from my old case, which only moved wheels in one direction. The case is both beautiful and practical. It has an asymmetrical design, which basically means that the bottom part of the case, so that's the dark part here, is very large. It's larger than the top part of the case. What I like is that you can put a lot of things in the bottom and then put the things that you need into the easier to access top part of the case. Also, very important, it has a TSA lock, which will ensure that only myself or the TSA agents can get into my case. I'm so excited to try this case out, and I would like to thank Level 8 for sponsoring this video. You also kind of want to get the lay of the land of the country you're visiting. Where are the places you want to go? What kinds of things do you want to do? Maybe get a map of the area that you're planning to stay in. Have an idea where the grocery store is, or a pharmacy, or a medical center. All of these things are really good to know ahead of time. By researching your destination, you can go on to the next step, which is planning out your itinerary. I'm not a big believer in planning your trip to the last detail. I like to get somewhere and just experience the culture, experience the vibe of where I am. I will be in Australia for 2 months, and I guess I'm cheating a little bit here because I have been there before and I have stayed in the area that I will be staying in before. So I have a really good idea of what I'm getting into, what that area looks like, what things I have to be worried about, and what things are absolutely fabulous. But it's a good idea to kind of have that research in hand and then at least build a little bit of an itinerary so that you kind of have an idea of where to start once you get there. I don't know about you, but I like to have things kind of set out a little bit because it gives me peace of mind and it also gives me a really good starting point. Look at your insurance situation. It's probably a good idea to get traveler insurance, so shop around, kind of check out who's offering what type of insurance and have that in place before you leave. Some final thoughts I think I'd like to mention in the planning and prep stage is please make sure your passport is up to date. There's nothing worse than going on a trip and realizing that your passport has expired or is expiring. Keep in mind that a lot of countries want your passport to have a minimum of 6 months before it expires. I believe Australia is one of those countries, so this is something you want to make sure. If your passport is expiring in 6 months, get it renewed before you go. Also, as far as what to pack, this is where the part about knowing the area and understanding what's around you and having an idea of what you're going to be doing will help you to understand what types of things to bring with you. What I usually do is I check the weather for whatever place I'm going to visit, and I kind of get a few years worth of data for that particular time of the year, which gives me a good average and gives me an idea as to what type of clothing to bring. I know, for example, that Melbourne is really warm this time of the year, unlike Calgary, where we were at minus 18 yesterday. Melbourne's going to be much warmer. It's going to be in the high 20s to the mid 20s. But it can get down to the low 20s and even the high teens at that time of the year. So I want to make sure that I pack a light jacket or, a hoodie or something like that, and that I'm prepared for cooler weather. And they also get quite a bit of rain from what I remember. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So that is pretty much it for the prepare and plan section. The second part I'd like to discuss is safety and security. Very important if you're traveling on your own to plan for your safety and to use common sense whenever you're dealing with anyone you don't know or when you're in an environment that you're not sure about. The first thing is to stay connected. Ensure that your phone will work in the country that you are going to. Try and figure out ahead of time if you need some kind of a phone plan or if you can purchase a SIM card that will work in that country. I think for Australia, I will probably get an electronic SIM card because my carrier would charge me just an intense amount of money for roaming fees. Your phone is your lifeline. It's your way of being able to connect with people who know you, either through phone calls or text messages or email. So ensure that your phone is in good working order. It has a lot of battery life and that type of thing. I'm also bringing my iPad. Of course, I cannot live without my iPad. And I'm also bringing my laptop just because I need to edit videos and so on. But both of these items are an extra connection to people who know me and just an extra way for me to be able to get in touch with people. The second thing I would say is I've really learned to trust my instincts when I travel. If something feels odd to me or something is off, I really pay attention to those feelings. If I'm chatting with someone I don't know and I'm not getting a good feeling about it, I try and extricate myself from that conversation quickly. I kind of keep an eye out when I'm walking in different areas. I avoid going to places by myself in the evening where there's a potential for you to be robbed or accosted or that type of thing. When I'm in Australia, I don't go and sit on the beach by myself at night when there's nobody there. It's just common sense. Use your common sense and be aware of things around you. Be aware of what is happening. If you're going to take the train or the buses or that type of thing, make sure you know where you're going, especially if you're doing this late at night. I would hate to be caught at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in an area that I don't really know and I don't know where I am and there's not too many people around. So just be cautious. This goes also for any of you who use apps like Tinder. I mean, I don't use those types of apps, but people do. People like to have dates when they're staying in a place for a long time. I would really caution you that you keep yourself safe in situations where you're meeting strangers. Please meet in busy areas in the middle of the day in a coffee shop, and don't talk about your finances or how much money you have or anything that's too personal. Secure your items. Carry only one bag when you're walking around. Make sure that no one else will have access to it. When it comes to your luggage, make sure that it has anti-theft type of situations, kind of like my TSA lock on my suitcase. I like to lock my suitcase and some valuable things even when I'm staying in an Airbnb, because you never know who might come in there. Not that anyone can't break into your suitcase, they probably can, but it's an extra safety step and I just think it's common sense. Be aware when you're walking around places, especially at night, of anyone with really odd behavior. Don't flash things, like don't wear huge jewelry that flashes that you've got a ton of money. Be discreet, blend in a little bit, and try and be a part of the local scene. Be a local. Don't stand out too much as a tourist. I prefer that. I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb when I'm in a different country. As much as possible, enjoy yourself, but don't try to stick out too much. I would also say have some local emergency numbers programmed into your phone. Know what the 911 version of the country that you're traveling to is, and know what some of the local police numbers are. Be aware of where you can go if you have a medical emergency. Are there clinics around you? Is there drugstores around you? And that type of thing. And speaking of health, try and stay healthy during your trip. Now, I'm going to Melbourne, which is, pretty much no different than being in Calgary, except it's a lot warmer. And I know that they have very strict hygiene rules in the restaurants and areas that you eat, or if you're buying food from outside vendors. But try and limit exposure to things that could make you sick or make you not feel well. I think that's just basic common sense. First of all, it would ruin your trip if you got really sick. And secondly, it would probably be expensive. And there's insurance companies that won't necessarily cover some of these smaller emergencies, like if you get the flu or something. They sometimes only cover big events, cases of huge accidents. So be prepared to take care of yourself. If you're the type of person who exercises, continue to do so, but be aware if there's a different altitude level and that type of thing. Be kind to yourself. Don't push yourself to do exactly what you do in your own city. Be kind to yourself. You've just had a big trip. In my case, it'll be, a good 30 hours or more with layovers of travel. And being on airplanes is not that healthy. So look after yourself during your trip and also while you're spending time in the city and the country that you're going to. The next thing that I kind of want to cover is accommodations. Clearly, you need to arrange some of this ahead of time. Now, I know that sometimes when we go away for a few months, like I am, we may not want to stay in one place for any length of time, but I would say that you should at least have accommodations covered for when you get to a new city. So as an example, I'm going to be in Melbourne for a couple of months, and I want to make sure that I'm staying in one place for a good chunk of that time. So I have booked an Airbnb for 1 month. I like to stay in an Airbnb. Now, I have my son and his family in Melbourne, but they're a larger family. They have 3 children and they live in a very small home. And I don't want to be packed into a home for 2 months and infringe on them and also not have personal space. So when I travel, I make sure my budget includes allowing for an Airbnb, and I don't like to share. I'm too old to share, so I like to have my own apartment. So that's what I did, is I booked an Airbnb for the first month, and the second month I will decide once I get there. If I really love the Airbnb I'm staying in, then I'm going to see if I can book it for longer. But it might also be kind of fun maybe to book a different Airbnb in a different area in Melbourne or around Melbourne, or even maybe go to the Gold Coast for a little bit or do different things. In any case, I have allowed myself a little bit of flexibility, but at the same time have given myself the security of knowing that I have a place to go when I land. So let's talk about a big topic, finances. It is not inexpensive to travel nowadays. And to be honest, I'm at an age where I don't want to be staying in hostels or shared accommodation or like the cheapest, ickiest place possible. If I was super young, that would not maybe be a big deal, but now it is. I want to stay in a decent place and I want to be comfortable. So to give you an idea of what my finances look like for my trip to Australia, my flights were $2,500. That's going there and coming back. That's a pretty standard fare. It's a sale rate. Flights to Australia from Canada are expensive, mainly because often you have to use maybe a couple of different airlines, and there's definitely layovers. You have to account for what you will be spending at the airport when you are staying there 5 to 10 hours before your next flight is due. I'm going from Calgary to San Francisco, and I am in San Francisco for 6 hours. Then I'm on a flight directly to Melbourne. On the way back, I'm going from Melbourne to San Francisco, and from San Francisco to Vancouver. And I am in Vancouver for 10 hours, which is ridiculous, but that is the reality. And then from Vancouver, I go to Calgary. So clearly I will be spending money at the airport. I usually like to try and get into a lounge. And so sometimes that's like $70 US to get a lounge pass. I'm hoping I can do that when I'm in San Francisco for 6 hours or longer. It just makes it a little more pleasant to pass the time when you're at the airport. There's Wi-Fi, there's usually food, there's usually some wine. Sometimes there's even like showers and all kinds of different services. So there's costs that I need to include for that. When I purchased my airfare, I purchased airfare where I had to pay a little bit of additional money for being able to choose a seat that I wanted. And I paid that happily. I like to sit by the window and I wanted to have a decent row. And so I paid, I think it was an extra $80 US to be able to choose my seat. I pre-chose my seats for all of my flights so that I would not worry about it. My Airbnb was around $3,400 for the first month. Airbnbs in Melbourne are expensive. Really check and evaluate, how much it's going to cost you to stay somewhere, especially if you're there for a longer term of time. My second month, I'm going to say, is probably going to be the same. So my accommodations alone for my 2-month Australian trip will probably be around $6,500 to $7,000 for the 2 months. So that and my airfare, which with all of the seating and probably some of the costs that I will incur at the airports will be close to $3,000. You're looking at almost $10,000 just for the airfare and the accommodations. I'm going to guess it's going to be probably another $3,000 to pay for food and coffees and restaurant meals and things that I'm going to do with my grandchildren. I'm budgeting around $15,000 for this trip. That gives you a great idea as to why I had to start a YouTube channel or have some kind of a second gig. This is a lot of money. Imagine someone doing that every year. It's a lot of money. But this is important to me, and I will do anything to be able to go see my grandchildren and my son and his wife. And so it is well worth the expense, in my opinion. And I'm working hard at YouTube to be able to cover some of those costs. So finally, just a little further note on the packing situation. As I was saying, I'm going to be packing very light. I know the weather is fairly warm in Australia, so I'm bringing a couple of pairs of Lululemon shorts. I'm bringing a couple of pairs of Lululemon tights. I have some athleisure wear type of clothing, and I'm only bringing one set of dress pants and a nice top. Otherwise, it's predominantly athleisure wear that's stylish and kind of cool, but very light and easy to pack. I am bringing one down-filled jacket, and I've got one hoodie type jacket and a rain jacket that's going to come with me. I'm wearing a pair of sneakers for the trip, and I have a pair of flip-flops, which, as far as I'm concerned, every Australian seems to live in. And I also have a pair of runners that are suitable for running and training in that I will stick in my suitcase. I've got some makeup that I'm bringing along and just a few face products. A lot of these things I can buy over there. And since I am there for 2 months, I'm really not wanting to bring that kind of stuff with me. I made sure I had an Airbnb that has, hair dryers, a washing machine, all of these little amenities that I don't want to have to worry about. The other thing I'm looking to bring is a converter, because the electrical plugs in Australia are different. I learned that the last time I was there. So before you go on a trip, check if you're going to need a converter. Finally, I would say embrace the solitude of traveling alone. I absolutely love it. I like to be able to do whatever I want. If I want to go to the museums, I go to the museums. Melbourne has some really good ones, and I really enjoyed them last time, and I plan to go again. I can go to little shopping areas and shop around all day. I will spend time with my grandchildren, go to their sport events. Definitely planning to do some wineries, and I just love the freedom. I love the freedom of traveling by myself, poking around. Last time I was there, I walked along the beach almost every day. There was all kinds of little restaurants and little bars along the beach. If I wanted to stop for a glass of wine or Prosecco, I could do that. It was so nice. All right, everyone, so this is it. I would love it if any of you who are interested in doing so would leave us some of your tips for when you travel in the comment section below. Let us know if there's things you would add on to what I said. I'm sure I missed a lot of things. It's really hard to get everything into a short video. So have a conversation in the comment section. Maybe tell us about some of the trips you've made and that have been memorable, and some of the things that you've learned while traveling. And especially if you travel solo, I would love to hear some of your comments. It's been great chatting with everyone, and I will see you all at a regular time next week.